This isn't science fiction. This is the reality that one small, bankrupt country pioneered, and now the entire European Union is racing to copy.
Long-range thermal cameras, radar, and potentially even swarms of drones. They're part of a high-tech border security system that Greece is testing to stop migrants arriving from Turkey illegally.
In 2015, Greece was the last country anyone expected to lead a technological revolution. The nation was broke. Its banks were failing. And then 850,000 refugees showed up on its shores in a single year. The images were apocalyptic. Beaches covered in life jackets, children sleeping in mud, islands transformed into open-air prisons. Everyone expected Greece to collapse. Instead, something strange happened. Within just a few years, migration numbers on Greek islands dropped by 79%. The chaotic camps were shuttered, and Greece went from Europe's weakest link to its most studied laboratory. But here's what nobody's really talking about. Greece didn't just solve its own crisis. It accidentally built the prototype for what borders will look like everywhere by 2035. We're talking AI that reads your dialect to figure out where you're really from. Drones that hunt in coordinated swarms, algorithms that decide whether you're a threat before you've done anything at all. The question is no longer whether this technology works. It clearly does. The question now is far more unsettling. What happens when every border on Earth operates like this? To understand why Greece matters, you need to understand what Europe was facing. The 2015 migration crisis didn't just happen to Greece. It happened to all of Europe. But here's the cruel math. Under EU rules, asylum seekers must apply in the first country they enter. For over 1 million desperate people fleeing Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, that first country was Greece. Suddenly, islands like Lesbos became holding pens. The Moria camp, built for 3,000, swelled to 20,000. Families were crammed into shipping containers. Riots and fires became routine. International headlines screamed about Europe's shame. And Brussels? They scolded Greece for the chaos while refusing to take significant numbers themselves. Greece was expected to process, house, and manage a continental crisis with an economy that couldn't even pay its own police force. For years, this seemed unsolvable. Then, in 2019, a new government made a bet that would change everything. Instead of asking Europe for more money or more sympathy, Greece asked a different question entirely. What if we could see the future? What Greece built over the next few years wasn't a wall in the traditional sense. It was something far more sophisticated. A surveillance architecture that treats the border less like a line and more like a living organism. Start with the obvious stuff. Along the Evros River border with Turkey, Greece erected a 200-kilometer steel barrier, 5 meters high, razor wire on top. But the wall itself was almost beside the point. What made this system revolutionary were the towers. Surveillance stations packed with thermal cameras and radar that can see not just to the border, but 15 kilometers beyond it, deep into Turkish territory. The system doesn't wait for someone to arrive. It watches them approach from another country entirely. Now layer in the artificial intelligence. These aren't dumb motion sensors. The AI distinguishes between a human, an animal, a vehicle, even weather disturbances. When it identifies a potential crossing, guards receive instant alerts, but that's just detection. Greece also piloted something called predictive interception, AI-powered drones and autonomous vehicles, patrolling the frontier, intercepting what the algorithm labels as threats before they ever reach Greek soil. Think about that for a moment. This isn't border security as we've known it. This is a system designed to stop people before they've technically done anything, based on patterns, predictions, and probability. But perhaps the most unsettling tools aren't the drones or the fences. They're the ones you can't see. Greek border units now carry devices that can instantly analyze a migrant's speech, not just identifying the language, but detecting specific regional dialects. When someone claims to be from a certain country, but their accent says otherwise, the system flags the discrepancy. Then comes the phone extraction. In seconds, authorities can pull contacts, messages, photos, GPS history, and travel patterns from a migrant's device. This data helps build profiles, identify networks, and connect individuals to smuggling operations. And it doesn't stop at the border. Greece replaced its chaotic open camps with what they call closed controlled access centers, high security facilities surrounded by double razor wire fences with 24-hour AI surveillance. The systems monitor residents around the clock, analyzing behavior patterns and automatically detecting gatherings or protests. When the algorithm identifies abnormal activity, gates can lock automatically. Security is alerted, sometimes without any human making that call. This is migration management as total information awareness. Every conversation, every movement, every pattern fed into systems designed to predict and prevent. So, did any of this actually work? The statistics are striking. In just 12 months, Greece's island migrant population dropped by 79%. Nationwide numbers fell nearly in half. New arrivals plummeted. The Greek government closed 86 migrant facilities in a single year. But here's what gets lost in the hardware story. Greece didn't just build a digital fortress. It completely rebuilt how asylum actually gets processed. Back in 2019, some applicants were told they'd wait years, even decades, for a decision. The system was so backlogged, it had essentially stopped functioning. By 2023, processing time had collapsed from years to months. Digital case files, faster interviews, streamlined decisions. The strategy was deliberately two-pronged. Harden the border to make illegal entry costly and dangerous, but simultaneously create narrow legal pathways. Seasonal worker programs, bilateral agreements with countries like Bangladesh and Egypt for people willing to follow the rules. Make the illegal route pointless. Make the legal route possible. At least that was the theory. Now we need to talk about what this system actually costs. Not in euros, but in human terms. Human Rights Watch has documented accusations of Greek authorities allowing vigilante violence against migrants. Reports describe violent pushbacks at the border. Boats forced back to Turkish waters, sometimes in dangerous conditions. The surveillance system watching 15 kilometers into Turkey raises questions that international law wasn't designed to answer. If you detect and turn back people before they touch Greek soil, have you violated the right to claim asylum? Greece says no. Human rights lawyers say the question is the point. Then there's what happens inside the controlled access centers, systems that analyze behavior, predict disturbances, and can lock down facilities automatically raise serious questions about algorithmic authority. Who's accountable when an AI makes a decision that affects someone's freedom? When does predictive security become pre-crime policing? And there's an even larger question. Did Greece actually solve anything, or just displace it? Some researchers argue that stricter controls in Greece simply pushed migration flows toward more dangerous routes, like the central Mediterranean crossing to Italy, where thousands die every year. The numbers went down in Greece. But did the suffering just move somewhere else? Here's why Greece matters beyond Greece. The European Union isn't just watching. It's funding, studying, and preparing to scale this approach across the continent. The EU provided 1.6 billion euros for Greece's border transformation between 2021 and 2027. That wasn't charity, it was investment. Greece became Europe's testing ground for technologies that could reshape borders everywhere. And now the infrastructure is spreading. The new EU Migration Pact, adopted in 2024, mandates faster border screenings, enhanced biometric databases, and coordinated surveillance networks across member states. The system Greece piloted is becoming the system Europe standardizes. AI-driven border security initiatives are expanding rapidly across different regions. The European Union, through Frontex and the Schengen Information System, is adopting AI to monitor migration flows and detect irregular crossings across land and maritime borders. The U.S. Border Patrol already uses autonomous surveillance towers powered by AI software that can ingest fuse, and analyze data from radar, infrared, and other sensors through computer vision algorithms. These systems can autonomously track targets and, with advances in AI, will lead to truly autonomous drone swarms, multiple units controlled without human intervention. What Greece proved is that this technology works at scale, in real-world conditions, on Europe's most porous frontier. That proof of concept is now being replicated from Poland to Spain. So, where does this lead? The trajectory is already visible. By 2035, many nations are expected to deploy fully autonomous AI systems capable of 24/7 monitoring, analysis, and response coordination without direct human oversight. Borders will be defined less by geography and more by data. Virtual perimeters, where surveillance, communication, and defense systems operate in a synchronized digital ecosystem. Think about what that means. Fully autonomous drones patrolling remote terrain, predictive AI forecasting migration trends before they happen, biometric systems that can identify individuals across databases spanning multiple countries and continents. These smart border networks will integrate with advanced communication systems and global satellite grids. This interconnected system will allow nations to share intelligence seamlessly, turning traditional boundaries into intelligent, adaptive systems. The future border doesn't look like a fence. It looks like a web of sensors, satellites, and algorithms that knows who you are, where you've been, and where you're trying to go, often before you know yourself. And this is where we need to step back and ask the question that Europe seems determined to avoid. Greece achieved something remarkable. A bankrupt country facing an impossible crisis found a way to regain control. The numbers prove it. The technology works. Other nations are studying, copying, and scaling the approach. But does it work, and should we do it, are not the same question. When we build systems that predict human behavior before it happens, that analyze speech patterns, extract phone data, monitor movements, and make autonomous decisions about freedom and security, we're not just managing migration. We're building infrastructure that changes the relationship between individuals and states. This technology won't stay at borders. Surveillance systems developed for frontier security have a way of migrating inward. The algorithms trained on migrants today could be watching citizens tomorrow. The predictive systems designed for border crossings could be applied to protests, to political movements, to anyone a government decides needs watching. Greece didn't set out to build a prototype for the surveillance state. They set out to solve a crisis. But the tools they created, and that Europe is now scaling, have implications that extend far beyond migration policy. So, what should we make of Greece's transformation? The honest answer is complicated. Greece faced a genuine emergency. Other European nations refused to share the burden. The country was broke, overwhelmed, and running out of options. In that context, using every available tool to regain control isn't hard to understand. And there are real humanitarian arguments for effective border management. When borders are chaotic, smugglers profit. People die on dangerous crossings. Communities on both sides suffer from instability. A system that processes asylum claims in months instead of years serves applicants better than indefinite limbo. But better than chaos is a low bar. And the specific tools Greece developed, predictive surveillance, algorithmic behavioral analysis, automated detention responses, raise questions that demand answers before they become the global standard. Who decides what behavior counts as suspicious? What happens when AI systems encode bias? How do you appeal a decision made by an algorithm? And once this infrastructure exists, who controls how it's used? Greece proved that technology can transform border management. The European Union proved it's ready to scale that transformation continent-wide. What remains to be proven is whether anyone is thinking seriously about where this leads, or whether we're building tomorrow's surveillance architecture with yesterday's assumptions about how it will be used. The story of Greece's border transformation isn't really about Greece. It's about what happens when desperate circumstances meet powerful technology, and what that combination produces when scaled to a continent of 450 million people. The systems being built today will shape migration for decades. They'll also shape how governments relate to movement, identity, and prediction itself. Whether that's a success story or a warning depends entirely on decisions that haven't been made yet, by policymakers, by voters, and by the technologists building these systems right now. What do you think? Is Greece's model a necessary evolution or a dangerous precedent? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. We break down complex global stories like this every week.